Alex Azar testified to the House Ways and Means Committee today, before, this is important, before the Washington Post exposed the existence of the whistleblowers report. Congressman Jimmy Gomez of California voiced suspicions in his questions that are now supported by the whistleblower report.
Do you think that breaking basic protocols and exposing untrained human service employees to the coronavirus before allowing them to be dispersed around the country could have endangered the employees and other Americans?
I don't believe that has taken place, and the isolation and quarantine protocols should always be followed according to whatever CDC or state and local public health officials have recommended.
Okay, if they were not followed, say they weren't followed, what would be the steps to deal with those employees?
Well, I'd want to know with the full facts, and we'd take appropriate remedial measures.
Do you know who the employees that were part of these teams that were deployed to Travis and March Air Force Base?
I don't know their names, no.
I
have 83,000 employees. I apologize. I don't know all of their names.
Very funny. Very, very funny. Congressman Gomez didn't ask him the names of those workers. Alex Azar's sleazy evasion of his responsibility in that answer was to try to create a joke that he alone in the United States of America thought was funny. You didn't hear any other laughing in that room with lives at stake.
We saw yesterday, which is basically a change in the leadership at the White House as to who is actually running point on the coronavirus. There's been a lot of infighting behind the scenes with Secretary Azar. He hasn't necessarily been getting along with folks in the White House. The president has been dissatisfied with the leadership, and that's why he appointed Pence to lead the effort last night at that press conference. And then the other thing that we've seen is we've seen the president really try to downplay the concerns about coronavirus and say maybe it would dissipate by the spring, maybe it won't even come here. But meanwhile, career and scientific professionals, some of whom were behind Trump at the podium last night, have contradicted that and said that it's inevitable that the virus will come here, and it's something that Americans need to be prepared for.
Anything that could be done wrong probably has been done wrong. That starts with the president himself continuing to make inaccurate statements about the consequences of the policies adopted, inaccurate statements about the pace of vaccine development, about the likely spread of the disease in the United States. And you couple that with the announcement today, the implementation today of a decision to silence our senior public health officials.
The problem facing us is that we don't know who is ill. The testing protocols are so restrictive that this woman fell into the void and her sickness was allowed to be forward unnoticed for several days. So we got a problem with testing. The CDC has made a terrible mistake in not allowing early testing and not preparing with test kits.
We need to see tens of thousands of tests being done in this country, if anything, to just prevent further spread.
Today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 1,192 points in one day. That's the largest single-day point drop in the Dow ever. The Dow has now dropped 3,200 points this week. The S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow all had their largest one-day point declines ever today. In terms of how our country is faring, how we are handling it, honestly, I think it has to be, we have to contend with the fact that there is a problem at the top in terms of leadership and clarity and just, sentient awareness of the basic facts of what is going on around this crisis right now.
It's going to disappear. One day, it's like a miracle. It will disappear.
There has been deep concern for days. Talking to White House officials and confidants of President Trump, it's clear that the Dow Jones Industrial Average and NASDAQ and other indicators are part of the re-election campaign. And what they wanted to do is not only get control of this in terms of what's happening on the health front, but the political front, and putting Vice President Pence in charge, to use President Trump's words. It's about making sure there's one messenger for this administration.
Donald Trump's predecessors understood when the nation felt fear. If it was around a shooting, a death, a national catastrophe, they had an empathy. and they understood fear and how to address it. Yes, expressing the confidence of the nation and saying we have marshaled the resources necessary, but realistically understanding the anxiety of the American people. Donald Trump refuses to recognize that fear, and there's going to be a growing chasm between what Donald Trump and Mike Pence have to say about coronavirus and what the American people feel about it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.